Hello, Ezekiel Dasho here, and I'm going to draw this shiny spoon. There's a lot of symmetry and there's a lot of shininess and a lot of fun stuff to shade. So, looking forward to this little exercise. I'm going to start, as I usually do, by blocking in the main form. A little bit of subtle curvature here. And I'm going to wind up doing this probably close to life size. Let's move it up just a little bit here so that I'm not drawing in the shadow too much. So for this part of the spoon, we're looking at a sort of elongated egg shape. And I'm going in very lightly in case I need to make corrections. The stem is quite a bit more slender than the fan shape fluting out at the end here. Okay, so now we can start let's identify some of the places where we know that it's going to be very bright, and then we'll just sort of make a line around those places or shade around those places a little bit. We know that we're going to want to leave those very bright. The spoon is kind of reflecting the light from the windows here. And if I look closely, I can sort of see a distorted reflection of where the windows kind of stretch to the shape of a spoon. So there's this sort of window sill shape. And those will be quite bright. And maybe a little bit of this area here, which has a little bit of reflective, secondary reflection. A little less bright, but still reflective. And now I'm going to start darkening in some of the areas that are noticeably darker, and very similar process to the other drawings that we've done. At this point, we're going to start with finding those darker places and accentuating them. So there's this darker line here, and this line here, this dark line, almost comes all the way up and goes around. doesn't really stop until the spoon curves at the top. It starts catching a little more light. The lip of the spoon on this side. There's this lighter area here, but then there's this darker area on the lip where okay. So now it's this going to be the same process, and we'll darken this in quite a bit. And this mid-tone here, we can just go ahead and cover that with a sort of gentle mid-tone. Do a little cross-hatching to get that laid in a little more evenly. And now that we've got the shape of the spoon and some of the shading blocked in, go ahead and draw the shadow for the sake of knowing where the contrast is between the spoon and the shadow. So let's see, it kind of arcs about there. And there's a pretty stark curve there. And it gets a little lighter as it gets farther away from the spoon. So I'll like lightly draw that shape in there, and now go back and give it one layer of shading. This is similar to drawing in the shadow for a cube or for any other solid shape. It's just a little bit more complex because of the varying heights of the object and the curvature of the object, but it's pretty much the same thing. So within the shadow, we can see there are some darker spots here and here, and it's good to get those laid in. So we'll get those laid in. And there's also this quite dark, very skinny line right here where the spoon is touching the paper. Well, there are some contrasts between the shadow. It's not just one flat looking block of gray. It's definitely subtly shaded throughout. And if you're using this as a reference, you can hopefully see the varying degrees of the shadow. If not, maybe just using your own spoon from home as a reference so that you can really dig into the shadows, because they are pretty complex. You first look at them and you think, may look like they're all the same, and then the more you look at them and the deeper you look into it, the more complexity you'll see. And those subtle notes of change within the shadow will go a long way to making the object look physical and like it's really occupying some space on the page. So now with this part, I'm just doing what I was doing before in terms of identifying like the places that are darker. There, as you can see, there's sort of some squiggly like shadows and dark lines that gives the metal that sort of reflective look. And if you look closely, you'll be able to see them and render them in. And the more time you put into it, the more realistic it'll get. Put this line there. Well, this spoon is clean, but I wouldn't say it's extremely highly polished or anything like that. So there are some minute areas where there's a little bit of tarnish maybe, but nothing approaching dirt or anything like that, but just I guess variation, so that when you're drawing it, it doesn't look like it's a uniform, blob of reflective metal. It's looks more like an actual object. So another part of the process here is just starting very soft and gentle, and then when you're confident that you know where you want to put something darker or more solid, go ahead and then darken it up and solidify it, commit to it. But start soft and gentle so that you have some space to so that you can forgive yourself a little bit if you maybe have something that's not perfectly placed and you want to correct it. If you go soft and gentle, you'll be amazed at how forgiving and how malleable the drawing is later in the picture. So let's see, we've got this darker shadow here. And definitely darker here. Shadow's a little darker here. So that is going to about wrap this one up, and I hope it's been helpful. You can put a lot of time into stuff like this and keep working at it to get it to be as, realistic as you want. I should have remembered to say this earlier. Similar to the last picture that I did of the apple, I'm using an HB lead, and so it's harder, and it lets you go in the lighter side of things much easier, and it tends not to want to smudge around as much as the softer pencils. Go ahead and so yeah, I'm kind of happy with that. If you push in on these areas that are right next to the bright white light, if you darken those up a little bit, the contrast will bring the light up and make it look much shinier. And from here on out, it would just be a matter of making the sort of the fine tuning and the adjustments and stuff. But similar to like the other shapes that we've been looking at, it's just a matter of building it and then blacking it in and then shading it. And sometimes it's easy to get lost in the shading and spend all day doing it. Okay, well, thanks for watching, and I hope this was helpful. And see you next time.